Welcome back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroche Valley of Andalusia, Spain.
This here is the beginning of another seed into straw case. So the guys have already brought these 2 bales here. And you might see here to the left, maybe I can zoom in a little bit. So here in this area there is something that looks pretty tall. But it might be from the cereal or it might be something else, but it doesn't really matter. The cows will come in here soon. Or not only the cows, the whole bovine family. And they will graze, and at the same time we want to spread the straw into these little piles and seed into them, so that their hooves will trample it and put the seed in good contact with the soil, while at the same time the animals are being fed. So that this area, which was pretty deserty-like not long ago, really becomes a lush paddock with enough plants.
Welcome back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroche Valley of Andalusia, Spain. This here is the mule Capitan. Finally, what I have been talking about has come true. We are going to work with mules.
So this here is the beginning of our new thing, plowing with mules. And since this morning he already did a few passes, and I can see him there in the distance. I will now walk over there and have a chat and also a closer look. But before I do that, let me get a close-up how this now looks like. Doesn't look that bad given the color. I have ordered the seed, some of it we already have, and after a little while of more infiltration, this will then be seeded. This is like from another century, but it's very good. And as you can see, this is not very deep. This is at the surface in a similar way as the pigs would do. Which is also quite interesting, because the very same work can be done by pigs. And that is also in the future. As you can see, this is all pretty wet here after some heavier rain overnight, and the wetness extends all the way up to here. I would assume the swale is now pretty full. That's something to look at next. So this is a very wet spot, because now it is saturated and it's missing plants, but that is why we're doing this. This has been filled up very well I need to find another angle to show you the step, but I can already see that the step is now overflown, which is good. The good thing working with mules is that the trees are not an obstacle. You can very easily go around them without harming them. Usually those mules are used in the more mountainous areas here to do different types of work in places where a machine cannot really operate. So the step here is definitely now overflown, which is very good. Here's the cow from yesterday, where the guys had difficulties extracting the calf. Unfortunately, all these proceedings were too much. The calf died overnight, and the little cow for this very big calf also suffered quite a bit. This morning they lifted her up by using the backhoe and the special tool that we have for that case. It was the first time we had to do it. And she was on her feet. But now that I'm checking on her, she just laid down again. But I assume she will now be able to stand up on her own. It is important to help them, because if they are not standing on their feet for a long time, something else gets damaged. As far as I understood what the vet explained. With regards to plant and soil life, we have this in here. This is our temporary paddock CT8, and the activity of the cows, well, not only cows, I should say bovines, because let's not forget the bulls. They are part of it. And of course the calves. So the activity of the bovines has finished yesterday. We have some few grasses left, but of course that is not what they would like to eat. They rather have it lush, and it looks like this is going to be lush once again in some 30-40 days. And now with all the rain, this really gets soaked now. But after the rain we definitely need some real sunshine, which will come. And as we are now in very early spring, officially on the calendar it's still winter, this will certainly develop very well. And at a later stage, but this will be next year, we will overseed this with the same seed mix that we have been using in all the other places. And I believe I mentioned that already. We need to be careful not to seed everywhere and then have to protect the places, because then we are taking away available paddocks, and then there's no place for the bovines to be at and forage. So we do some of the paddocks, and some others we keep in our grazing rotation. Here you can see that the browsing is minimal, given that there's enough other forage. So they only go after the leaves if that is the only thing that they can eat. So the more forage we have, the more protected these trees or shoots in this case actually are. So I think that idea of closing and opening a paddock is enough to protect the young oak trees. Now, it's not so much about these ones here, because they might simply be part of the existing trees. But like I said, I don't know much about it, but I understand that this tree somehow wants to survive and creates offspring. Nature has their way, and I think I will observe for a while before I'm going to modify something. Let's not modify things we don't understand. That is my general principle. And there might be people out there who know much better. So keep the comments coming. I will definitely listen and take everything into account. And that will be helpful, so it's much appreciated. I don't know. After all this ordeal, I have a feeling she's not really happy. I would think she's confused. But then I am projecting human emotions onto an animal. But then this animal does have emotions too. They just express them in a different way, and maybe the emotions are not as elaborate as ours. Whenever there's a brain, I think there is emotion. And that is why I think whatever we do, we should do this carefully. So, more observation, less action. Of course, I have to say that. I can look into the mirror and I know what I am. I am a predator. I am an omnivore. And I have no problems in eating this animal. But until I do, I think I can treat this animal well and with respect. Does not stop me from killing her when the time comes, because I gotta eat too. But we don't have to rush that, and especially we don't have to create completely unnecessary suffering. Which is why she gets all the help that we can provide, so that she can continue to fulfill her function in this ecosystem, like all of us. And what I just said about browsing, if there is enough forage, it's minimal. So here are the real young oak trees, and they look pretty much untouched. So I think that theory of mine does hold up. If there is enough forage, they will leave them alone. There is another place where there wasn't enough forage, mostly straw, and there they removed all the leaves from those young oak trees. But I believe now that we are in spring, they will come back. This is the berm of the Swale in CT2, where we have the integrated pond to the right. And as you can see, some grasses are coming up. This is all natural, we did not put them here. Also here in the foreground, which is the extension of that berm, we have some plants that are establishing themselves. But the swale itself, despite some heavier rain, has not really changed that much. The ground, or the bottom of the swale, is probably a little bit more moist, and there is some standing water, but it's far away from filled. So apparently, here to the right, this does catch rain, but it's not rushing down. So I would think some of it may actually be doing what we want and infiltrate. While on the downside of it, so there where the mules are working, this area is soaking wet. Oh, not trying to explain why, just pointing out. I can almost give a daily Paulownia report. That stuff is growing so fast. And this one is also developing some new leaves and branches from below, because the cows who invaded this have decapitated this tree a little bit. But it doesn't really matter. As long as it grows, we are all happy. The one right next to it is also growing rapidly. I'm not sure how this comes out on video. This is another one. So they're all creating rapidly new parts of their body, and very soon we will have the big green leaves of those trees here. So this here is today's forecast, and you might be able to see that there's quite some rain in the long-term forecast, and by 6 o'clock it is supposed to rain again. It's now a little bit difficult, but I can move this a bit, and you can see the night will be full of rain. How much? We will see, but at least it is coming, or it continues to come. And if I move up and show you the sky, this is what we have. This will take a while to finish, so this is several days of work. You can see how big the area is and how small the two animals with the humans are. It requires some strength, but I would think that's a pretty relaxing type of work. And definitely very sane. This is kind of the past in the 21st century. We use iPhones and software to plan and communicate, and at the same time we do things like centuries ago. But it seems to be working. This paddock C4 used to be very, very bad, almost barren land, and now it does have forage of its own. And the guys also distributed all across the surface seeds, and then we will close this for a while until those new plants have gone to seed themselves, and then we have successfully restored the land, at least in this small area. And we continue to do that in all the 45 hectares. It's a joy to watch.
Ya es la segunda vez que se le reparte para así, ¿eh?
While in, for example, the US, people with horses use a horse trailer and a pickup truck. In Europe, there is a truck that transports the horses. So this can only be used to move horses. And this mule here is a little bit upset, wants to be with the others. So let me show you how this looks on the inside. This is made to move horses around. But if you have any additional material, then there is no space for it. While in the US case, I do appreciate that method. You have the horses in the trailer and you have the bed of the pickup to move some other things. ¿Cuántos años de esos que tiene?
Este 3 y esta 6. Mira si se va a atravesar el granú. Cobra. Te va a cobrar tú, no tiene que cobrar. ¿Y tú, capitán? No sabes nada. No sabes nada tu cuerpo. Vai con el mulo. Esto ahí. Despacio, despacio. Ahí vale. Este que todavía no sabe.
Sí, se nota.
Este lo vamos a amarrar aquí ya. Así.
Voy a salir así. Coge la esquina.
Ah, vale.
From bad and ugly to pretty good, and later on to best. This is how it looks like this paddock is going to evolve.
Cuenta las cartas, tiene más partida de la marcha que el que la inventó.
That was it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you find it informative and our little journey back to the, let's say, 18th century was interesting. See you in a few days.